A quiet morning turns to chaos. The early morning sun bathed Liberty Park in a soft golden glow, its rays casting playful shadows through the sprawling branches of towering oaks. The park was alive with the gentle hum of life. Joggers with rhythmic strides traced the winding paths. Children's laughter echoed from the playground, and dog owners guided their pets through lush open spaces. It was one of those mornings that seemed to promise nothing but tranquility. Among the crowd was Emma Carter, a local business consultant and single mother, relishing her rare day off. She sat on a park bench, watching her 12-year-old daughter, Mia, practice her gymnastics routine in the grassy clearing. Maya's movements were fluid and confident, her body twisting and flipping in ways that defied gravity. Emma couldn't help but smile. Her daughter's passion for gymnastics was evident in her every motion, and moments like this were a respite from the whirlwind of their busy lives. Unbeknownst to them, Officer Jared Blake of the Metro Police Department was conducting a routine patrol nearby with his K-9 partner, Rex. Jared was an experienced officer with a long career in law enforcement. Rex, a highly trained Belgian Malinois, was known for his sharp instincts and loyalty. The two made an impressive team, trusted by their peers and often relied upon for high-stakes situations. But today's patrol was routine, and Jared had allowed himself a rare moment of ease as they strolled through the park. Suddenly, Rex's demeanor shifted, his ears perked up, and a low growl rumbled from his throat. Jared tightened his grip on the leash, his instincts kicking in. "Easy, boy," he murmured, scanning the area for what might have triggered the reaction. In the clearing, Mia was oblivious to the tension brewing. She had moved into a series of flips, her form flawless and her focus intense. Emma, too, remained unaware, her attention fixed on her daughter's routine. Rex's growling intensified, his body rigid with anticipation. Jared could feel the dog's powerful muscles coiling beneath his grip. Then, without warning, Rex lunged forward, pulling the leash taut. Jared struggled to hold him back, shouting commands that went unheeded. "Mia, stop." Emma's voice sliced through the air as she saw Rex barreling toward her daughter. Maya froze mid-spin, her eyes wide with shock and terror. Before anyone could intervene, Rex reached Mia and tackled her to the ground, his teeth bared. The force of the impact knocked the breath out of her, and she let out a terrified scream. The once peaceful park erupted into chaos. Parents pulled their children away from the scene, their faces etched with panic. Phones were pulled out, recording the unfolding events. Jared wrestled to regain control of Rex, his commands sharp and desperate. Emma sprinted toward her daughter, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached Mia just as Jared managed to pull Rex back. Dropping to her knees, Emma cradled her daughter, her voice trembling with fear and anger. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Did he hurt you?" Mia was trembling, her leotard torn, and her knees scraped. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm okay, Mom. Just scared." Emma's fear quickly gave way to fury. She stood and faced Jared, her voice shaking with rage. "What is wrong with you? How could you let this happen?" Jared, visibly shaken, struggled to form a response. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. I don't know what went wrong. He's never acted like this before." Emma wasn't satisfied. "Sorry doesn't cut it. My daughter could have been seriously hurt. That dog is dangerous, and you had no control over him." The crowd around them murmured in agreement, their anger directed at Jared. He looked around, his face pale, and realized the gravity of the situation. "I'll report this immediately," he said, his voice strained. "I promise this will be investigated." Emma glared at him. "You'd better. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows about this." As Jared led Rex away, his heart sank. This wasn't just about the incident. It was about trust, the kind of trust his uniform represented. He had failed today, and the consequences were only beginning to unfold. Emma helped Mia to her feet, her anger simmering just below the surface. "Come on, sweetheart. We're going home." She guided her daughter toward the car, her mind already racing with what to do next. This wasn't just about Mia. It was about accountability, about making sure this never happened to anyone else. As the park slowly returned to its usual rhythm, the ripples of what had occurred spread far and wide, setting the stage for a confrontation that would challenge not just individuals, but the very system they represented. The fallout begins. The drive home was heavy with silence, broken only by Mia's soft sniffles. Emma gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles white against the leather. Her mind churned with anger and confusion, replaying the incident over and over. How could something so terrifying happen on what should have been a peaceful morning? And why hadn't that officer done more to control his dog? In the passenger seat, Mia sat curled up, her knees pulled to her chest. She stared out the window, her usually bright and cheerful demeanor replaced by a blank, distant expression. Emma's heart broke for her daughter. This wasn't just about the physical injuries, though Mia's scraped knees and torn leotard were evidence of the encounter. It was about the fear, the vulnerability that now clung to her daughter like a shadow. When they arrived home, Emma led Mia inside, her movements deliberate and calm, though her insides felt like a raging storm. "Go take a shower, sweetheart," she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from Mia's face. "We'll talk after you've had some time to relax." Mia nodded silently and disappeared into the bathroom. Emma stood in the living room, staring out the window, her thoughts racing. This wasn't something she could let go. Her daughter's safety had been violated in a place that was supposed to be safe. Someone needed to be held accountable. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, snapping her out of her thoughts. She picked it up and saw a flurry of messages from other parents who had been at the park. "Emma, are you okay? I saw what happened. That officer was completely out of line. You need to report this. I got the whole thing on video. Let me know if you want it." Emma's stomach clenched. The incident had clearly struck a nerve in the community. She opened one of the attached videos, her hands trembling as she watched the footage. Seeing Mia's terror replayed on the small screen reignited her fury. This was bigger than her daughter. It was about every child who could be hurt because of negligence like this. It was about the trust people placed in law enforcement and the responsibilities that came with it. Emma didn't know much about police protocols, but she knew one thing for certain: that dog should never have been out of control. She dialed the number for the Metro Police Department, her jaw set in determination. After a few rings, a calm, professional voice answered. "Metro Police Department, how may I assist you?" Emma took a deep breath. "I'd like to file a formal complaint about an officer and his K-9 unit. My daughter was attacked at Liberty Park this morning." The voice on the other end didn't falter. "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Let me connect you to the appropriate department." After a brief hold, she was connected to Sergeant Maria Lopez, who listened patiently as Emma recounted the incident in detail. Maria assured her that the matter would be investigated thoroughly and that she would receive updates as the process unfolded. But Emma wasn't satisfied with reassurances. She wanted action. "Sergeant Lopes, I don't just want an investigation," Emma said firmly. "I want to make sure this never happens again. That officer didn't have control over his dog. My daughter could have been seriously hurt, or worse." Maria's tone remained professional, but there was an edge of sincerity in her response. "I understand your frustration, Ms. Carter. We take incidents involving our K-9 units very seriously. I'll personally ensure this is reviewed at the highest level." After hanging up, Emma felt a flicker of relief, but it was short-lived. She knew that promises of an investigation didn't guarantee accountability. By the time Mia emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in her favorite pink robe, Emma had already begun drafting a post for social media. She carefully chose her words, balancing her anger with the need to remain composed. "Today, my daughter Mia was attacked by a police dog at Liberty Park. She was practicing her gymnastics routine when the dog broke free from its handler and pinned her to the ground. Mia is shaken, but thankfully not seriously injured. However, this incident raises serious questions about the training and accountability of our local K-9 units. I'm calling for a full investigation to ensure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Please share this post to help spread awareness. She attached the video footage and hit post. Within minutes, her phone began buzzing with notifications. Comments poured in, many expressing outrage and support. This is horrifying. I'm so glad Mia is okay. Something like this happened to my nephew last year. It's unacceptable. K-9 units are supposed to be the best trained officers. This is a failure on so many levels, but not all the responses were supportive. Some questioned Emma's narrative, suggesting she might be exaggerating the situation. Others defended the officer, claiming that police work was inherently risky and that accidents happened. Emma took a deep breath, reminding herself why she had spoken out. This wasn't about seeking attention or creating drama. It was about justice. Meanwhile, at the Metro Police Department, Officer Jared Blake sat in a stark conference room, his head in his hands. Across from him was Captain Rachel Sinclair, a no-nonsense leader with a reputation for integrity. The atmosphere in the room was tense. "Jared," Rachel began, her tone measured but firm, "I've reviewed the preliminary report from this morning. This is a serious matter. The public's trust in our department is on the line." Jared looked up, his face pale. "Captain, I swear, I didn't mean for this to happen. Rex is usually so disciplined. I don't know what got into him." Rachel leaned forward, her piercing gaze unrelenting. "It's your job to know, Jared. You're his handler. If Rex misread the situation or acted without command, that's on you. This isn't just about the dog. It's about your ability to control him." Jared swallowed hard. "I was distracted," he admitted. "There was a lot happening in the park, kids running around, people shouting. I looked away for just a second, and that's when Rex lunged." Rachel's expression hardened. Distraction isn't an excuse. You've been in this role long enough to know that handling a K-9 requires your full attention at all times. This incident has already gone viral. The community is demanding answers, and we need to act swiftly. She slid a folder across the table. "You're being placed on administrative leave, effective immediately. Internal Affairs will conduct a full investigation. In the meantime, Rex is being reassigned to a senior trainer for evaluation. Do you understand?" Jared nodded silently, his shoulders slumping under the weight of her words. Back at home, as the day wore on, Emma noticed that her social media post was gaining traction. Local news outlets had picked up the story, and reporters were reaching out for interviews. She hesitated. Did she want to take this public? Would it put Mia under even more stress? But when Mia, still quiet and withdrawn, crawled into her lap and whispered, "Mom, are we going to be safe?" Emma knew her answer. She held her daughter tightly, stroking her hair. "Yes, sweetheart. We're going to make sure this never happens again." The fight for accountability had only just begun, and Emma was prepared to take it as far as she needed to. For Mia, for every child who deserved to feel safe, and for a system that needed to change. The investigation begins. The morning after the park incident, Emma woke to find her phone buzzing incessantly. She groggily reached for it, blinking at the screen. Overnight, her social media post had gone viral. Hundreds of thousands of views, tens of thousands of shares, and a cascade of comments awaited her attention. Major news outlets had picked up the story, with headlines such as, "Police K-9 attacks young girl during routine practice at local park." "Community demands answers after police dog incident." "A mother's fight for accountability." What went wrong? Emma rubbed her temples, feeling a mix of vindication and apprehension. She hadn't anticipated the story gaining this much attention so quickly. While the public outcry brought support, it also came with scrutiny. She scrolled through the comments, her heart sinking at some of the more vicious ones. "This mom is just looking for a payout. It's a police dog, not a stuffed animal. Accidents happen. People need to stop blaming the police for everything. They're under enough pressure. But Emma quickly shook off the negativity. This wasn't about her or the noise from strangers on the internet. It was about ensuring Mia, and every other child, was safe in the presence of those sworn to protect them. She glanced over at the couch where Mia sat curled up under a blanket, watching cartoons. Her daughter's usual vibrancy was dimmed, her confidence shaken. Emma's resolve hardened. She wasn't just fighting for justice. She was fighting to restore her daughter's sense of security. The precinct grapples with the fallout. Across town, Captain Rachel Sinclair stood in the middle of the Metro Police Department's conference room, addressing a group of senior officers and trainers. A large monitor displayed the now viral footage of the incident, frozen at the frame where Rex pinned Mia to the ground. "This," Rachel began, her voice steely, "is a failure on multiple levels. Public trust is at an all-time low, and this department is now under a microscope." Lieutenant Marcus Duval, head of internal investigations, cleared his throat. "We've already started the formal investigation, Captain. Officer Blake has been cooperative so far, but there are discrepancies in his initial report. Witness statements don't align with his version of events." "What kind of discrepancies?" Rachel asked, crossing her arms. "For starters," Marcus replied, "he claimed Rex reacted to erratic and suspicious movements. But the footage clearly shows the child performing a gymnastics routine. There's no indication of a threat. Additionally, multiple witnesses reported that Blake was distracted, possibly looking at his phone, just before Rex broke free." Rachel's jaw tightened. "Negligence," she muttered. "And the dog." Hank Lom, the precinct's senior K-9 trainer, spoke up. "Rex is one of our most reliable units. His training record is spotless. If he acted without command, something must have triggered him. Either Blake gave an unintentional signal, or there was an external factor that caused Rex to misinterpret the situation." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What external factors are we talking about?" Hank hesitated. "It could be anything. A sudden noise, an unfamiliar smell, or even Blake's body language. Dogs like Rex are trained to be hyper-alert, but they rely on their handler's guidance. If Blake was distracted, Rex might have made a decision on his own." Rachel exhaled sharply. Frustration etched across her face. "We can't afford excuses. I want Rex re-evaluated immediately, and I need a full analysis of every K-9 protocol we have in place. If there's even a hint of a training gap, we address it. No delays." Marcus nodded. "And what about the mother?" "Emma Carter. She's been vocal, and the media's already painting her as the face of community outrage." Rachel's lips thinned. "We need to handle this delicately. She's right to be angry, and her daughter's safety should be our priority. I'll reach out to her personally. Transparency is the only way we'll salvage any trust." A mother's demand for answers. Later that afternoon, Emma received an unexpected call. The number displayed was unfamiliar, but the name Captain Rachel Sinclair flashed in her mind from the brief research she'd done about the precinct. She answered hesitantly. "Miss Carter, this is Captain Rachel Sinclair of the Metro Police Department." A calm, authoritative voice greeted her. "I'm calling to apologize for the incident involving your daughter and to assure you that we're conducting a thorough investigation." Emma's grip on the phone tightened. "I appreciate the apology, Captain, but I need more than words. My daughter is traumatized, and I want to know what you're doing to make sure this doesn't happen again." Rachel didn't flinch at Emma's directness. "You're absolutely right, Miss Carter. Accountability starts with us. Officer Blake has been placed on administrative leave, and Rex is undergoing a full behavioral evaluation. We're also reviewing our K-9 training protocols to identify any gaps. I'd like to meet with you in person to discuss the steps we're taking." Emma was taken aback. She hadn't expected such an immediate response, let alone an invitation to sit down with the precinct's captain. "When?" she asked, her tone guarded. "Tomorrow, if you're available," Rachel replied. "I want you to see firsthand what we're doing and to answer any questions you have." Emma agreed, though a part of her remained skeptical. She had seen too many stories of incidents like this being swept under the rug. She wouldn't let that happen here. Behind the scenes. At the precinct, Rachel gathered her team to prepare for the meeting. "I want full transparency tomorrow," she said. "No sugarcoating, no deflection. We're not just dealing with a mother. We're dealing with a community that's watching our every move." Carla Ramirez, one of Rachel's most trusted deputies, nodded. "We've compiled everything. Witness statements, video footage, and Rex's training history. I'll present the findings and explain how we're updating protocols." "Good," Rachel said. "This isn't just about damage control. It's about doing what's right." Hank leaned forward. "Captain, there's one more thing. Rex's initial evaluation suggests he responded to a signal, possibly an inadvertent one from Blake. If that's confirmed, it's not just a training issue. It's about the handler's competency." Rachel's expression darkened. "Then we address it. No exceptions." Preparing for the meeting. At home, Emma was also preparing. She spent the evening reading through articles about K-9 units, watching videos of police dogs in action, and writing down questions she wanted answered. Mia watched her quietly from the couch. "Mom, do you think they'll listen to you?" Emma set down her notebook and pulled Mia into a hug. "I don't just think so, sweetheart. I'll make sure of it. They need to understand that this isn't just about us. It's about making sure no one else has to go through what you did." Mia nodded, her trust in her mother unwavering. As Emma tucked her daughter into bed that night, she made a silent vow. This meeting wouldn't be the end of the conversation. It would be the beginning of a fight for change. For Mia, for the community, and for anyone who ever felt powerless in the face of injustice. The battle for accountability was just getting started. The meeting and uncovering the truth. The next morning, Emma sat in her car outside the Metro Police Department, her hands gripping the steering wheel. She had arrived early, wanting a few moments to collect her thoughts. The imposing brick building loomed before her, its bold lettering spelling out Metro Police Department above the entrance. Emma could feel the weight of what she was about to face, not just for herself, but for her daughter and everyone who had reached out to share similar stories of injustice. Inside, Captain Rachel Sinclair and her team were preparing for the meeting. Rachel glanced at her team, ensuring they were ready. Carla Ramirez had arranged files neatly on the table. Hank Lom stood near the corner with a tablet in hand, and Marcus Duval reviewed the agenda one last time. "Let's not just show Miss Carter that we're investigating this incident," Rachel said, her tone firm. "Let's prove that we're committed to real change." Emma's arrival. Emma walked into the precinct, her heels clicking against the tiled floor. The receptionist directed her to the conference room, where Rachel greeted her with a firm handshake and a respectful nod. "Miss Carter, thank you for coming," Rachel said. Emma sat down at the long table, her expression guarded. "I'm here because I want answers," she said bluntly. "And you deserve them," Rachel replied, gesturing for her team to sit. "Let's get started." Carla projected a slideshow onto the screen. The first slide showed a timeline of the incident. "We've gathered witness statements, body camera footage, and park surveillance videos," she began. "We'll walk you through what happened and the steps we're taking to address it." Emma folded her arms, her skepticism evident. "Go on." The timeline of the incident. Carla clicked to the next slide, which displayed stills from the park surveillance footage. She pointed to a frame showing Officer Blake standing near Rex. At approximately 10:42 a.m., Officer Blake was patrolling the park with Rex. According to multiple witnesses, he appeared distracted, possibly by his phone. The next frame showed Rex straining against the leash, his body tense. At 10:45 a.m., Rex reacted to what he perceived as a threat. His handler was not in full control at the time, and the leash slipped from his grasp. The final frame froze on the moment Rex tackled Mia. Emma flinched, her hands balling into fists. "This is where things went wrong," Carla continued, her voice steady but somber. Rex acted on instinct, but Officer Blake failed to intervene quickly enough. His commands were inconsistent, and Rex did not respond immediately. Rex's behavior analysis. Hank Lone took over, stepping forward with his tablet. "Miss Carter, I want to be clear. Rex is not a dangerous dog. His training record is impeccable. However, K9 units rely on their handlers for clear direction. In this case, the handler's distraction created a gap in communication." Hank displayed data from Rex's training sessions, showing his high success rate in controlled environments. This incident highlights the importance of constant vigilance. Officer Blake unintentionally sent mixed signals through his body language, which Rex interpreted as a command to engage. Emma narrowed her eyes. "So you're saying it's all the officer's fault?" Hank shook his head. "Not entirely. While Officer Blake bears responsibility, we also need to examine whether our training protocols adequately prepare handlers for high-distraction environments." Officer Blake's actions. Marcus Duval spoke next, his tone measured. "Miss Carter, Officer Blake has admitted that he was distracted at the time of the incident. His failure to control Rex is a serious breach of protocol. As a result, he has been placed on administrative leave, and his future with the K9 unit is under review." Emma leaned forward. "What about accountability? My daughter could have been killed. Are you just going to slap him on the wrist?" Marcus met her gaze. "Internal Affairs is conducting a full investigation. Depending on the findings, Officer Blake could face disciplinary action, or even termination. We are not taking this lightly." Emma speaks out. Emma sat silently for a moment, absorbing the information. Then she took a deep breath and spoke. "This isn't just about my daughter," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "It's about every parent who takes their child to a park, expecting them to be safe. It's about holding people accountable when they fail in their responsibilities. And it's about making sure this doesn't happen again." Rachel nodded. "You're absolutely right, Ms. Carter. That's why we're not stopping at this investigation. We're implementing changes to ensure higher standards of training and oversight for all K9 units." Emma raised an eyebrow. "What changes?" "The path forward." Rachel gestured to Carla, who pulled up another slide. "We're introducing mandatory quarterly retraining for all K9 handlers," Carla explained. "This will include simulations in high-distraction environments to prepare handlers for real-world scenarios." Hank added, "We're also revising our leash policies. All handlers will be required to use reinforced safety leashes with secondary locks to prevent accidental slips." Rachel leaned forward. "Additionally, we're establishing an independent oversight committee to review any incidents involving K9 units. This committee will include community representatives to ensure transparency." Emma's expression softened slightly. "That's a start," she said. "But what about Rex? What happens to him?" Hank answered, "Rex is currently under evaluation. If he's found to be a risk, he will be retired from active duty and placed with a qualified handler in a non-enforcement role." Emma nodded slowly. "And what about the officer? When will I know what happens to him?" Rachel replied, "We'll keep you informed as the investigation progresses. You have my word." Leaving the precinct. As Emma left the precinct, she felt a mix of emotions. The meeting had given her some of the answers she sought, but it also revealed the complexity of the situation. This wasn't just about one officer or one dog. It was about a system that needed to do better. When she got home, Mia greeted her at the door. "How did it go, Mom?" Emma knelt down and hugged her tightly. "It's not over yet, sweetheart, but I think we're making progress." Mia smiled faintly, her trust in her mother unwavering. Emma knew the road ahead would be long, but she was determined to see it through. For Mia, for the community, and for the change that was desperately needed. The fight for justice was far from over, but Emma was ready to keep pushing forward. The ripple effect. The meeting with the Metro Police Department had left Emma feeling a cautious optimism, but her fight was far from over. By now, her story had moved beyond social media into the realm of national news. Her phone buzzed with calls and messages from reporters, activists, and even other parents who had experienced similar incidents. Emma found herself at the center of a growing movement, one she hadn't anticipated but now felt compelled to lead. A community rally. 2 days after the meeting, Emma attended a community rally organized by concerned parents and local activists. The rally took place in the very park where the incident had occurred. The irony wasn't lost on Emma as she stood in the same grassy clearing where Mia had been attacked. The once peaceful sanctuary was now filled with signs reading, "Hold officers accountable. Protect our children. Reform K-9 policies now." Emma wasn't sure she wanted to speak at first. She had never seen herself as an activist or a public figure. But as she watched the growing crowd, parents holding their children close, community leaders taking turns at the microphone, she realized her voice could make a difference. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped up to the podium. The crowd hushed, their eyes fixed on her. "My name is Emma Carter," she began, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "2 days ago, my daughter Mia was attacked by a police K-9 right here in this park. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She was practicing her gymnastics routine, something she loves more than anything. That dog didn't know better, but the officer handling him should have." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. "This isn't about bashing the police," Emma continued. "It's about accountability. It's about making sure the people who are supposed to protect us don't end up hurting us. And it's about making sure no other parent has to go through what I went through, watching their child be pinned to the ground by a trained dog while the person responsible stood there, unable to stop it." The crowd erupted in applause, and Emma felt a surge of energy. She wasn't just speaking for Mia, she was speaking for every parent, every child, every family that had been affected by systemic failures. Behind closed doors. Meanwhile, at the Metro Police Department, Captain Rachel Sinclair was dealing with pressure from all sides. Community leaders were demanding swift action, city officials wanted answers, and her own officers were questioning the department's ability to handle the growing scrutiny. In a tense meeting with her top advisors, Rachel laid out the situation. "This isn't just about the Carter case anymore," she said, her tone firm. "It's about systemic reform. We need to show the community that we're serious about change." Lieutenant Marcus Duval nodded. "Internal Affairs has completed the preliminary investigation. Officer Blake's negligence is clear. He failed to control Rex and didn't act swiftly enough to prevent the attack." "And Rex?" Rachel asked. Hank Lom, the K-9 trainer, eyed. "Rex's evaluation shows that he's still highly capable, but he responded to a signal, whether intentional or not, from Blake. The fault lies with the handler, not the dog. That said, Rex is being retired from active duty as a precaution." Rachel frowned. "Retirement? That feels like a half measure. The community is demanding accountability, and I'm not convinced this sends the right message." Marcus leaned forward. "Blake has been cooperative, but there's no denying his actions, or lack of them, led to this incident. We're recommending a suspension without pay while we review his future in the department." Rachel nodded slowly. "Fine, but we also need to focus on broader reforms. Carla, where are we on the K-9 protocol updates?" Carla Ramirez pulled out a stack of documents. "We're drafting new guidelines for handler training, equipment upgrades, and incident reporting. But this is going to take time. The community wants immediate action." Rachel sighed. "Then we give them something now. Announce the formation of an oversight committee and bring in community representatives. Let's show them we're not just listening, we're acting." The weight of a movement. Back at home, Emma was beginning to feel the strain of her newfound role. Between media interviews, organizing with local activists, and responding to an endless stream of messages, she barely had time to process her own emotions. Mia, meanwhile, was struggling in her own way. Her once joyful gymnastics practices had come to a halt. She avoided the park entirely and flinched at the sound of barking dogs. Emma noticed the change and felt a pang of guilt. Had her decision to go public made things worse for her daughter? One evening, Emma sat down with Mia on the couch. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" she asked gently. Mia shrugged, her eyes fixed on the floor. "I don't know. I don't like talking about it, and I don't want to go back to the park." Emma pulled her daughter into a hug. "It's okay to feel scared. What happened to you was really hard. But you're so brave, Mia. And you don't have to go back until you're ready." Mia nodded but didn't say anything. Emma stroked her hair, silently vowing to protect her daughter from any more harm. Breaking the silence, a week after the rally, Emma received an unexpected invitation to speak at a city council meeting. The council was reviewing police accountability measures, and her voice had become a critical part of the conversation. The meeting room was packed, with community members filling every seat and reporters lining the walls. Emma sat nervously in the front row, clutching a written statement. When her name was called, she stood and approached the podium, her heart pounding. "Good evening, members of the council," she began. "My name is Emma Carter, and I'm here to talk about what happened to my daughter and what it represents." She recounted the incident in vivid detail, her voice breaking slightly as she described Mia's fear and the sense of helplessness she had felt as a mother. But as she continued, her tone grew stronger. "This isn't just about one officer or one dog," Emma said. "It's about a system that allows negligence to go unchecked. It's about a lack of accountability and oversight. And it's about the trust that's been broken between law enforcement and the people they're supposed to serve." The room fell silent as Emma's words hung in the air. She glanced at the council members, her gaze unwavering. "I'm asking you to take action. Not just for my daughter, but for every child, every family, and every community member who deserves to feel safe. We need stronger protocols, better training, and real accountability." When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Emma stepped back, her legs trembling but her heart steady. She had done what she came to do, make her voice heard. A glimmer of change. In the days that followed, Emma's testimony became a rallying cry for change. The City Council passed a resolution to fund enhanced K-9 training programs and establish an independent oversight committee. The Metro Police Department announced sweeping reforms, including mandatory retraining for all K-9 handlers and stricter leash protocols. Officer Blake's suspension was extended pending a final decision on his future in the department. Rex was officially retired and placed in the care of a trusted handler, far from enforcement duties. For Emma, these changes felt like small victories in a larger battle. But as she watched Mia slowly regain her confidence, practicing flips in their backyard, she felt a glimmer of hope. The fight for justice wasn't over, but progress was being made, one step at a time. Healing, accountability, and moving forward. 2 months had passed since the incident that had shaken Emma and Mia's lives. The media frenzy had subsided, leaving behind a trail of reforms, debates, and promises. The park was quieter now, as if it too had felt the weight of the events and needed time to recover. For Emma and Mia, the journey was far from over. Healing took time, and accountability demanded perseverance. A mother's push for justice. Emma sat at her kitchen table one evening, stacks of papers spread before her. These weren't just documents related to the incident. They were evidence of a systemic problem. After the initial investigation, Emma had filed an official request for records of previous complaints against the Metro Police Department's K-9 units. What she uncovered was unsettling. Over the past 5 years, there had been multiple incidents involving K-9 units and improper handling. Some were minor, such as dogs accidentally frightening pedestrians. Others were more serious, including injuries caused by misinterpreted commands. Most of these cases had been quietly settled or dismissed, leaving no permanent mark on the department's record. Emma couldn't let that happen again. With the help of a local advocacy group, she prepared a formal request for an independent audit of all K-9 units in the department. The group also helped her draft a petition, calling for greater transparency in police operations and mandatory external oversight of high-risk units like K9s. When Emma submitted the petition at City Hall, it carried over 50,000 signatures. Mia's journey. For Mia, life was slowly returning to normal. Her fear of dogs lingered, but Emma had taken steps to help her daughter regain her confidence. She enrolled Mia in counseling, where a compassionate therapist guided her through her feelings of fear and vulnerability. Mia also began attending gymnastics classes again, though she avoided outdoor practice for a while. One day, after much encouragement from her coach, she agreed to perform at a local competition. The night of the event, Emma sat in the bleachers, her heart pounding as she watched Mia step onto the mat. The crowd fell silent as Mia began her routine, a series of elegant flips, spins, and jumps that showed no trace of the fear she had felt just weeks before. By the time she landed her final move, the crowd erupted in cheers, and Emma felt tears streaming down her face. Afterward, as Mia ran into her arms, Emma whispered, "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. You're the bravest person I know." Mia beamed, "I'm proud of you too, Mom. You're fighting for me and for everyone else." The final verdict. The Metro Police Department concluded its investigation into Officer Jared Blake. The findings were damning. Blake had been distracted by his phone at the time of the incident. He had failed to maintain control of Rex, allowing the leash to slip. His commands during the attack were inconsistent and ineffective. As a result, Blake was permanently removed from the K9 unit and suspended without pay for 6 months. While some within the department argued that the punishment was too severe, others, including Captain Rachel Sinclair, believed it was necessary to send a clear message about accountability. Rex, the K9 involved in the incident, was officially retired and placed with a family specializing in rehabilitating police dogs. Emma had mixed feelings about this decision. While she understood Rex wasn't inherently at fault, she couldn't forget the terror he had caused Mia. A community transformed. The changes Emma had fought for began to take root. The independent oversight committee she had pushed for was formed, with members including legal experts, community representatives, and even Emma herself. The committee's first act was to implement new standards for K9 training, emphasizing handler focus, improved leash technology, and simulations that mirrored real-world environments. They also instituted mandatory mental health evaluations for handlers, recognizing that stress and distraction could lead to dangerous lapses in judgment. Rachel Sinclair personally invited Emma to tour the revamped K9 training facility. As Emma walked through the facility, watching handlers work with their dogs in high-distraction environments, she felt a sense of accomplishment. These changes wouldn't undo the past, but they could prevent future harm. "I want you to know," Rachel said as they walked together, "that your voice made this happen. The department is better because of your persistence." Emma nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "I appreciate that, but this isn't just about the department. It's about rebuilding trust. That's going to take time." A moment of reflection. One afternoon, Emma and Mia returned to Liberty Park. It had taken weeks of therapy and small steps for Mia to agree to visit the park again. As they walked past the playground and the open field where the incident had occurred, Mia hesitated. Emma knelt beside her, holding her hand. "You're safe, Mia. We're safe." Mia looked around, her expression wary but determined. "Can we sit by the fountain?" They found a bench near the park's central fountain, the sound of trickling water providing a soothing backdrop. Emma pulled a notebook from her bag, a habit she developed to record her thoughts during the ordeal. "What are you writing, Mom?" Mia asked. Emma smiled. "Just my thoughts. Everything we've been through, everything we've accomplished. I don't want to forget any of it." Mia leaned her head against Emma's shoulder. "Do you think it's over now?" Emma paused, considering her daughter's question. "Not completely," she said. "There's still work to do, but we've made a difference. Mia, you've made a difference." Mia's face brightened. Me? Emma nodded. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. Your courage, your strength, it inspired me to fight for what's right. And because of you, other kids will be safer. Looking ahead, as the weeks turned into months, the ripples of Emma's advocacy continued to spread. Local news outlets followed the story, framing Emma as a symbol of resilience and change. Parents from across the city reached out to thank her, sharing their own experiences and expressing gratitude for her persistence. For Emma, the fight wasn't over. She had joined a coalition of parents advocating for broader police reforms, not just for K-9 units, but for all aspects of law enforcement accountability. Her story became a rallying cry for change, a reminder that one voice could spark a movement. And for Mia, life began to feel normal again. She returned to the park more often, practicing her routines under the watchful eye of her mother. The fear that had once consumed her gradually gave way to confidence. One day, as she flipped gracefully in the open field, Emma watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. This was what they had fought for, not just justice, but healing. The park, once a place of fear, was now a place of hope. And for Emma and Mia, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with courage, resilience, and the unwavering belief that change was always possible.